Hi everyone, this is Francesca from Social Work Portal, and today we're breaking down one of the most fundamental pieces of the entire social work and social services process, the client intake form. I'll walk you through the most popular social worker intake form types, what makes each one unique, and how to use them effectively. We'll keep things to the point, so you walk away knowing exactly which forms are right for your setting. Plus, stay to the end and I'll show you where to get some free digital and downloadable intake form templates. Let's start with the basics. A social work intake form is the structured document you use to collect initial information from a client at the very beginning of your service relationship. And I know that sounds simple, but it's actually one of the most critical documents in your workflow. Think about it this way. Everything that happens after your first session, case notes, your service planning, your progress tracking and reporting, all of it is built on the foundation of what you've captured in intake. An effective and consistent intake process is directly linked to better service continuity and client outcomes. And beyond the data piece, the social work intake process is also a relationship building moment. For many clients, filling out that first form is the first real signal they get about your organization and what it's like. A clear and thoughtful trauma-informed intake form communicates that you take their experience seriously before you've even said a word. So as we go through these forms today, keep in mind we're not just talking about paperwork. We're talking about the documentation that shapes every service decision that follows. Okay, so let's get into the actual social work form types. The first is the general client intake form. You may also just call this your intake form. This is the foundational document used in virtually every social work and case management setting, from nonprofits to schools to private practice to government agencies. It covers the basics. Who is this person? Why are they here? How did they find you? And do they meet eligibility requirements? It's also where you collect consent and releases of information. Think of it as the front door to your service delivery process. Every client walks through it. The second type of form, and this is a big one, is the biopsychosocial intake form. This is one of the most thorough and widely used social work assessment forms in clinical and case management settings. The name tells you a lot you need to know. It looks at the biological, the psychological, and the social dimensions of a client's life all at once. For a clinical social worker or LCSW, this is often your primary intake and assessment tool. It helps you understand not just what the client is presenting with, but why, and what life factors might be influencing their decision. Let me show you a quick example of a biopsychosocial assessment. I'm here on the case management platform. Here's an example of a biopsychosocial assessment. You'll see that this one is separated into the different domain questions. A nice thing to look for when researching case management systems is paginated forms. This breaks very long forms up into multiple pages, making it easier to fill out. If you'd like to dig deeper into the biopsychosocial assessment, we have a full video on that topic. Check it out in our channel. Next up, we have two more intake form types that are used frequently across different practice settings. The mental health intake form is specifically designed for behavioral health and therapy contexts. When a therapist, counselor, or mental health social worker first meets with a new client, this is the form that helps them establish a clinical picture. It goes well beyond what a general intake form would ask. We're talking about things like current symptoms, medical health history, medications, substance use, prior diagnoses, previous hospitalizations, and risk screenings. This intake form for therapy gives practitioners the clinical baseline they need to start treatment planning from day one. Then we have the case management intake form. This one is a workhorse in community-based, nonprofit, and social services settings. Unlike the clinical mental health form, the case management intake form is focused on practical life domain needs, such as housing, food security, employment, transportation, childcare, and access to benefits. It's designed to help you quickly identify where a client's most pressing gaps are so you can prioritize your service plan right away. If you work in a nonprofit or social services agency and you don't already have a strong case management intake form, this is where you begin. Now let's talk about two form types that have become increasingly important in modern social work practice. First, we'll look at the trauma-informed intake form. This isn't just a standard intake with a softer language. It's a fundamentally different approach to how you gather information. The structure, the sequencing of the questions, the language used, all of it is intentional. The goal is to collect the information you need without re-traumatizing the person sitting across from you. Think about a case manager at a domestic violence shelter who switched from a standard intake to a trauma-informed one. Her clients, many arriving in crisis, started opening up earlier in the process and engaging more consistently. The form didn't change what she asked, it changed how she asked it. One small shift from information extraction to information partnership is what a trauma-informed practice looks like in real documentation. These forms are essential in domestic violence programs, child welfare, refugee settings, and behavioral health settings. The next form type we're covering is the combined intake and assessment form. Many organizations, especially high-volume agencies, combine the initial intake with a brief assessment into a single document. This gets you and the client to the service delivery faster, which is exactly what you want when someone is coming to you in need. These forms typically include demographics, presenting needs, a quick risk screen, and initial goal identification. Now, beyond the standard form types, you'll often see organizations creating population-specific intake forms, tailored to the clients they specifically serve. For example, a youth and family services intake form is going to look different from one used in a substance use recovery program or a refugee resettlement agency. For youth and family programs, you're capturing school history, family composition, maybe development milestones. Housing programs want to know eviction history, income, and whether a client has used shelter services before. Substance use programs need questions about usage patterns, prior treatment, and readiness to change. If you serve a specific population, your intake form should reflect that specificity, not just pull questions from a generic template. If you're working with refugee services, also pay attention to the language or languages your forms need to be presented in. Many organizations that use our services will have both an English and a Spanish version of the same form. Now, how do you actually choose the right intake form for your setting? There are 4 key decision-making factors. First, your practice setting. Is it clinical or community-based? The context tells you what level of depth you need at intake. Second, your client population. Who are you serving? The form that works for a mental health client may not work for a housing client. Third, clarity and accessibility. If your form is confusing, clients won't complete it accurately. Plain language is not a compromise in this case, it's a quality standard. And fourth, coverage versus restraint. Collecting too much information too soon can actually damage the relationship before it starts. Too many form questions also tend to keep people from filling out their forms completely. Ask what's essential and save the rest for follow-up sessions. A common scenario that I see all the time when demoing our case management software or helping nonprofits and social services organizations subscribe is that they need to digitize and automate their forms. They often want to get away from paper-based intakes. It's slow, it's hard to secure, it's difficult to search, and it creates the need for manual data entry work that takes your team away from direct service. If a form is illegible, or a field was left blank, or if it gets misfiled, that's a gap in your documentation that can affect service decisions down the line, as well as create problems with consistent reporting to funders. Electronic intake forms, also known as digital forms, solve most of those problems. Clients can complete their social worker intake form before they even walk through your door. The data flows directly into their client record. It's searchable, reportable, and ready for supervisors and funders to review. That's a completely different level of operational efficiency. Now, I do want to acknowledge that not every client population has easy access to technology, and paper may still have a role in those cases. The key is building an intake process that works for you and your clients. And if you're looking to make the switch or just want a better system for managing digital intake forms and social work documentation in a single place, let me show you a common flow in the Case Management Hub. Okay, so let's say you've set up your basic intake form in the Case Management Hub. You've added all the specific information you need to collect. Now let's go through a standard client intake process. Now here I'm adding a new client. I'd like to send them that intake form, so I'm going to click to send a client account invitation. And I'll select my form. I'll go ahead and send that invite. And right here on their profile, I'll see that the basic intake form is pending, meaning I've sent it to them, but they haven't filled it out yet. Once my client clicks the link in the email, they'll be able to easily set up their account in just a couple of steps. The client has submitted the form, and you'll get an email notification. You'll also see that the form has been completed. If I'd like reporting, I don't have to spend hours in a spreadsheet trying to get the information I need. I'll simply go over to the reports. And select my form. And the system will automatically give me the form reporting. Okay, before we close out, I promised to tell you where you could get some free downloadable social work form templates. Just go to socialworkportal.com and sign up for a free 21-day trial. No credit card is needed. You can even add up to 10 teammates to the same trial. Under the Forms area, you'll find the free digital forms that I've been showing you throughout the video. When you start your trial, you're going to see that there's 41 intake and assessment form templates for you to use. Feel free to download and export those, even if you don't subscribe. The interface is mobile friendly, both to send and fill out forms. It's easy for both you and your clients to use. There's also a URL option if you want to link a form on your website and make it public. You'll see the instant form reporting and how forms populate fields on the client record. If you have any questions as you're going through the trial, just reach out anytime at socialworkportal.com. This is also a great way to become familiar with the different types of nonprofit case management, and social work intake forms. Thanks so much for hanging with me and watching my video. If you like this type of content and want to learn more about social services and nonprofit tools and resources, like this video and subscribe to our channel. You'll never miss one of our new exciting videos.